In less than 2 hours, the world was forever changed by the Great War. The systems in place, the emergency services and government agencies that kept things running were mostly destroyed by nuclear fire, which allowed humanity's darker side to rear its ugly head. But there were those who clung to the old ways, those who wanted to prevent humanity from regressing altogether. And one such group, a small band of survivors living in the Nevada Badlands, defied the odds and held back the savage new ways. Once the bombs had finished falling and the fires had died, survivalists and preppers left their shelters with a single goal in mind: to make the Wasteland a better place. Inspired by the Texas Rangers, the survivalists continued to uphold the law in a world where law no longer existed. By killing raiders, slavers, and cannibals, they allowed new settlements to grow, and those who didn't try taking what they had or sought to place them in chains were allowed to join. These newcomers were taught how to survive. They learned how to shoot, clean weapons, and read maps, along with a laundry list of other skills they would one day pass down to the next generation. And in time they came to be known as the Desert Rangers, a group that protected the helpless from the many hazards that continue to plague the Wasteland. And for many years they pursued this noble cause. Even in 2161, 84 years after the Great War, the Desert Rangers were still at it, and we know this thanks to Tycho. His grandfather was one of the original survivalists who founded the Desert Rangers, and he passed on everything he knew to his son, who in turn passed it on to Tycho. Everything from finding water, to cleaning wounds, to killing bandits. After finishing his training, he became a full member of the Desert Rangers and developed a taste for traveling. First close to home, then steadily increasing the distance as he gained more experience, eventually becoming a long-range explorer traveling across state lines to both Texas and California, taking any maps and goods he found with him back to Nevada, as well as word of any new threats that would one day bring trouble. Over the years, many raiders, slavers, and ill folk alike have fallen to the Desert Rangers, who remained a force of protection and defense for quite some time, lasting longer than most groups who came from the ashes of the old world. But the beginning of their eventual downfall came in the form of a war that could not be won. At first, the long-range explorers in Arizona regaled stories of a new threat, a legion of sorts. Their numbers were few, but in the time it took the Desert Rangers to respond, moving a large portion of their numbers from Nevada to Arizona, their enemy had grown. The legion consumed everything it touched, and their numbers swelled. The Desert Rangers, even with their training, knowledge, and weapons, were not enough to stop them. Every time they killed one legionary, another 3 took his place, and after each conflict they were left with fewer rangers, and they didn't have the time or the people to train more. At the head of this new force was Edward Sallow, now known as Kaiser, who had transformed a small group of tribals called the Blackfoots into a deadly war party, killing and enslaving rival tribes and combining the survivors into a new ruthless nomadic army. In 2271, the Desert Rangers in Arizona had no choice but to retreat to the Mojave Outpost on the border of California. Their power in the region had been fractured, their numbers diminished, and the faith people once had in them was now gone. They were out of options and ready to give their lives for the cause when they encountered scouts from the new California Republic, a nation from the state next door, one with an army large enough to rival the Legion. So, in exchange for the NCR extending its protection to New Vegas, Hoover Dam, and more importantly southern Nevada, the Desert Rangers would join the NCR and train their rangers, because despite losing to the Legion, the Desert Rangers were some of the best soldiers they had ever seen, and they wanted to make as many of them as they could. And so the Desert Rangers agreed to the conditions, and a monument to the Unification Treaty was erected just outside the Mojave Outpost, memorializing the agreement and marking the boundary of territory controlled by the NCR. From this day forward, no longer would they be known as Desert Rangers, but Veteran Rangers, and their armor reflected this change. In the beginning, the Desert Rangers wore United States Marine Corps issued armor scavenged from pre-war military bases, which gave them sufficient protection not only against bullets and shrapnel, but also against the environment. Sadly, only a single set of this armor can actually be seen in-game, found at Stonebones Cave in Zion Canyon. This particular set was once used before the Great War by Staff Sergeant R.B. Vickers, a US Marine involved in the Yangtze campaign. We don't know if he survived, but his armor was eventually picked up by Randall Clark, also known as the Survivalist. Come to think of it, Clark was the model Desert Ranger. He knew how to survive in the New World, he removed threats when he saw them, and helped those in need. Even in death, he made sure that those he cared for would be able to use his knowledge after he was gone. But after the Unification Treaty, this armor was replaced by LAPD riot gear, created by the same manufacturer as the USMC armor. The only variance between their old and new armor was it was darker, almost black, and instead of having a green visor, it was now red. This is not to be confused with the advanced version found in the Defied, which is another different, albeit similar variant that neither the Desert Rangers or Veteran Rangers use. Other than these small changes, both armors are practically the same, but with LA being in NCR territory, the replacement is logical, providing their new Rangers with new armor they not only have an abundance of, but armor their new Rangers were already used to. As for weapons, they can be seen carrying a wide variety of rifles, carbines, shotguns, and revolvers, which brings me to the Ranger Sequoia, a weapon awarded to veteran Rangers for 20 years of honorable service. But Fallout New Vegas takes place in 2281, and the Unification Treaty was signed in 2271, meaning the veteran Rangers who have this weapon were already NCR Rangers when the Desert Rangers joined. So that means those veteran Rangers who don't have Sequoia revolvers are either the original Desert Rangers who joined, or NCR Rangers that became veteran Rangers that haven't quite served 20 years. It's not a definitive way of knowing who is who, but it does increase the odds, at least until 2291, the year all Desert Rangers will be given their very own Ranger Sequoia. Either way, all veteran Rangers are deadly, and their abilities have led to a legendary reputation. Captain Parker, an NCR military officer, occasionally compares a platoon of them to a tactical nuke, and even the elite NCR heavy troopers admit to being intimidated by them, and they're on the same side. The Fiends, on the other hand, know to run away at the sight of black armor, knowing the veteran Rangers can, and will, pick them off from more than a quarter mile away. And it's these skills that greatly aided the NCR in defeating the Legion during the first Battle of Hoover Dam, as they could stay out of reach on the ridge, but still pick off the Legion's old guards at the back, which led to the Malpais Legate ordering his guards to the front through the much less skilled fighters, who hadn't been trained for this scenario. In the confusion, the veteran Rangers slipped away, which led to their enemy making another mistake. They mistook the Rangers' tactical retreat for cowardice and followed them into Boulder City, where a trap had been set. Suffice to say, the Legion lost that battle, and what a relief that must have been for the Desert Rangers, finally seeing the Legion, this unstoppable force, running away with only a fraction of their numbers left. But they would return. This retreat would only last 4 years, and in that time the veteran Rangers have held their ground, keeping the Legion from taking Hoover Dam, which is no easy task, with how few of them were left in the Mojave, as most of them were sent south to Baja California by President Kimball. Why, you may ask? We don't really know, only that Chief Hanlon considers it a waste of time as they're merely chasing ghosts. Could there be another force that poses a threat that we don't yet know of? Or are the NCR merely expanding their territory and using their best forces to do so? Whatever the reason, the veteran Rangers have slowly returned to the Mojave in preparation for the second Battle of Hoover Dam, and this time they hope to put an end to Kaiser and his ruthless Legion once and for all. and in doing so, continue their original mission of making the Wasteland a better place. Be sure to show your support by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already for more Fallout content. If there's anything you'd like to see in a later video, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. With that said, thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.